Hello, Gothamites, and welcome to the Gotham Knight channel. I am your host, the Gotham Knight, and today we're going to get a little bit of a discussion into Batman 2 and some of the rumors that are going around. So, before we do, taking care of a little business, please like and subscribe. Please tell your friends about us. Please join the Bat community here at the Gotham Knight channel, and hopefully you like talking Batman as much as we do. So today we're going to get into a lot of the things that have been going around about Batman 2 and some of the things that basically what I have heard from my end. So I want to go ahead and get into that discussion. Okay, now we saw the impact of the Batman movie and what it had with the Riddler. Well, we saw the Joker. So many are speculating, hey, part 2 is going to be about the Joker. Well, there were reports that we were hearing things about Mr. Freeze and how Matt Reeves wanted to bring out Mr. Freeze into this universe. And so that's what I want to go ahead and get started. I want to go ahead and get started in talking about Mr. Freeze and some of the characters and some of the speculation. Okay? So real quick, Mr. Freeze is give you a background on some character, and I'm going to show you some of the people that have played Mr. Freeze, and some of those are suggestions, and those are going to be popping up on your screen right now. Okay, so here's a bit of history on Mr. Freeze. Okay, Mr. Freeze was first created in Batman 121 back in 1959. That's how far back he goes. Now, a lot of people, your dads, and I'm in the age where I came up in the reruns of the Batman, the Batman TV series from the 60s, where Mr. Freeze came in, Instant Freeze. Okay, now Mr. Freeze was created by Bob Kane, David Wood, and Sheldon Murdoff. That was Mr. Well, it was created as Mr. Zero. So the whole history of Mr. Freeze was he was created as, kind of like a Sub-Zero, but it was actually Mr. Zero. Victor Freeze, which is more popular known, was actually created by Paul Dini and Bruce Timm from the Batman animated series. So he has been portrayed in many facets, not only in film, but TV as well as voice. And a lot of people have gotten a chance to voice Mr. Freeze. And some of the people that I will say that it was George Sanders. I think that was the very first time that I saw him, which was in the Batman series that I remember. There was George Sanders, but he was also played by Otto Preminger. Eli Wallach, of course, we know Arnold Schwarzenegger within the Batman and Robin movie, which I am going to do a little series on. Like, what are the good things that we could take away from probably the worst Batman movie? So I'm going to dive in on that. Nathan Darrow, Ted Knight, more famous for the voice. Lenny One voiced him, Michael and Sarah, which I think a lot of people will be familiar with. Clancy Brown, who's well known for doing Lex Luthor's voice. John DiMaggio, another well-recognized voice actor. Keith Sabraka, Robert Kraft, Maurice LaMarche, Eric Bazoo, David Burrows, and Matthew Mercer have all been voice actors for Mr. Freeze. And this is a character that I know from inside sources that Matt Reeves has scripted. Now, will it go into the final one? No, because he's actually working on the Arkham, the miniseries, which was supposed to be GCPD. Hopefully that still is coming out within the works. I know with Discovery taking over Warner Brothers, as well as the programming for anything to do with DC Entertainment. David Zaslav has his hand on that. I know he loves Matt Reeves. I know the meetings have been amazing that have been coming out of that. So I think we're definitely in for a treat. So Mr. Freeze is a villain who is very his genius level is beyond our comprehension, even on the facet of being the level as Batman. Okay, so he not only is he a genius, but he's also brilliant cryogenist, arsenal of serial cryo weaponry and armory, and enhanced strength and durability because of his suits. This is who makes the character up of Victor Freeze, or Mr. Zero as you know him, the first iteration. But I think it really took off in the Batman animated series, where Paul Dini wrote Heart of Ice. Heart of Ice is probably one of the most recognizable, sacred adaptations of Mr. Freeze. And the story behind it is because how could you love or feel for a villain? And it all comes down to his wife, Nora Freeze, who is terminally ill. She's terminally ill, and he's trying to find a cure for that. He's trying to save his wife. And that in lies the dilemma. Like, do you support a villain for what he's trying to do to keep his wife alive? And it's a very hard choice, and I love that they wrote that in a story to where it made us feel like, oh wow, if we were in the same position, wouldn't we do the same thing to save our loved one? I know I would. And that was the ability of Paul Dini's writing to give us that dilemma. And this is what has inspired Matt Reeves. Matt Reeves is in the middle of this thinking, I want to do a Mr. Freeze story, and I want to do it right. I think that's where he is coming from. Now, what you're seeing on screen is some of the characters. Mark Strong, Giancarlo, Madsen. Fans have gone out and done their own interpretation of Mr. Freeze and how that would look. And man, I love Mark Strong. I think he's a wonderful, brilliant actor. I loved him as Sinestro in the Green Lantern movie. I know a lot of people will say, man, that movie wasn't great, but he was a perfect Sinestro. Giancarlo is a well-diverse actor who you could hate, but at the same time you could feel for him. So, man, that the casting of this is going to be very hard. Definitely very hard. So, what do you guys think? Who is your choice? Who would be your Mr. Freeze? I want to hear from you in the comments below. The next character that I want to get to that's being talked about is Killer Croc. Yes, Killer Croc, finally. Now, we did get Killer Croc, in fairness, in the Suicide Squad film, who was definitely played by a great actor, Adwali Akani Ajadib. I'm sorry, I just murdered your name. And if this is the first time that you're listening to the Gotham Night channel, I murder names. I would be facing multiple counts of prison time for murdering names. Like, I am notorious for that. But Killer Croc has been put in as a possible villain for this next movie. And Matt Reeves wants to use characters that, yes, they're well known, but these characters are all have an abundance of history or juice to them. And I think Killer Croc hasn't been well used. I will say that he hasn't been well represented. I should say well represented in films and TV like he should. No, the animated series did an amazing job. Okay, amazing job. Now let's get into the character. The character's name is Waylon Jones. He was created back in Batman 357 in 1983. Not that far away, but he was created by Jerry Conway and Gene Colan. Okay, he has been portrayed, of course, well known in the animated series, which was a great thing. But they made him sometimes look, not smart. And I think if a character is deformed enough to understand that where he's at, I think he might have a little bit more of intelligence for that. But it is what it is. But let's get into the voice actors. We did talk about the main actor. He's only been portrayed in film once by Adiwali. So in voice, he's more recognized by Aaron Kincaid, Brooks Gardner, Edwin Neal, and Steve Blum. This was the character that he was a wrestler, right? He's an alligator wrestler, and he was part of a side freak show that turned Gotham City. He turned into a mobster, a sword-dwelling super criminal and enemy of Batman. He's motivated due to having been born with a rare mutation that caused him to have reptile-like skin, and leading to a lifetime of abuse and prejudice, which drove him to madness. And of course, that would, if you're different, people treat you different, right? And that's the society. Now, Killer Croc, where would that come into? You're like, but how would that relate into the Batman? Well, the middle of Gotham is flooded. People were being rescued at the end. And I think that if Mr. Reeves has his name down, maybe, just maybe, we can have a Jaws-like experience where it's like a big playground to him. We get to see this character emerge and come to the light by what the Riddler did. That's a tie-in from the Riddler, that maybe he knew that Waylon Jones was out there, a shark-like character that's waiting to explode onto the Gotham scene. And it could have been a facet of series of experiences that led the Riddler to know about Waylon Jones' existence. And I think having him be in the water, and water is many people were afraid of the shark movies. That's why you go see the shark movies, right? That's why you see, 47 meters down, or Jaws, or any of these movies that entail the fear of being in water and not knowing what's in that water. And I think, for me personally, having that experience in a Batman film where, we've kind of, going into that little horror part of it, and I welcome it. I hope Matt Reeves is thinking along those lines, because as Killer Croc was written down, I felt like, wow, this can really be a character that can take off. that can be really recognized, not just being seen as a B plus character, but can take the scene as a character of kind of like a horror feel that you don't know where he's at. He's like a shark. He's like Jaws, and attacking that way. And I mean, his name is Killer Croc. So can you imagine a person being in the water and them just disappearing, doing like something small, or someone just trying to jump from one side to the other, and Killer Croc coming out and just like grabbing them and biting down? And since the jaws of a crocodile are immensely strong, like tons of pressure behind that, just snapping a person into just by a bite, just like a bite. I would welcome that. I would definitely welcome that. So I would tell me about, what do you think? Will Waylon Jones, Killer Croc, be an addition to Batman 2? I think so. I want to see it. But there are other speculations. There are other speculations that people are talking about, and I'll go ahead and play some of those. Poison Ivy has been one of them. I know Scarlett Johansson has been talked about within the studio about portraying Poison Ivy within the Batman universe. I'm all for that. Amazing, beautiful, wonderful woman, actress, amazing. Of course, the Penguin. The Penguin's coming back. What will we see from the Penguin taking advantage of where Gotham's at, where it's martial law now, and him being able to take that advantage of it? So I'm excited for that. Of course, Riddler is gonna have to play a part, and I think you build upon the Joker. Don't fully bring the Joker back into part 2, what people may be expecting. You know, throw that little card in there and say, you know what, we're doing Mr. Freeze and Killer Croc, and spice in the Penguin, and maybe, you know, Batman 3 we bring the Joker, or Batman 4. Do that build up. Let people build upon what Karen Gillan is portraying as in this Joker. So yeah, guys, let me know, what do you guys think? Are you wanting to see a Mr. Freeze? Are you wanting to see Killer Croc? Or do you just want a totally different character? So I'd love to hear from you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. I am the Gotham Knight. I'm going to go get my Gotham City coffee right now, and I hope you enjoy your day. Take care, Gotham City.